Heyo, folks, and welcome to this third reading of the Delphi Trial Transcripts. And we have gone through a bunch of them. We are now at the Safekeeping order from June 15, 2023. And at this point in time, the defense is fully aware what is actually going on in prison. They have tried to get Rick out of there for quite some time. Everything has been punted forward, and now in June, they are having this safekeeping hearing. Let's see so I don't say things wrong. Hold on. Boom, boom, boom. Hold on, so I don't get the... Yeah, June 15, 2023. June 15, 2023. We have read the defense case, although all of this is a safekeeping order. The prosecution is the ones who have the burden. They have to reach clear and convincing evidence, which is, as they described, it is at the level of the custody. It's the who can you prove the what do you call it? I almost said petition. No. Yeah, are you the father? Kind of stuff. That's clear and convincing evidence. Well, now we know it was not successful. That the prosecution claimed, no, Mr. Allen is there for safety. Yeah. And we know it's... I mean, it's hard to read this knowing that McLeland, Holman, Liggett, Gould, all of them were just, now we don't care. We're going to keep him there because we finally broke Rick. He's now in a psychosis. We pumped him full of Haldol, and he's saying things that is good for the prosecution, so we don't fucking care about his health. And it's evil to put to watch it, reading it unfold is it is taxing on you. So yeah, I know I could have made a bunch of other streams with a bunch of other cases, which would have given me more views and everything. I don't care, because this is important. Now, other cases are also important, but Rick Allen, in my opinion, is wrongfully convicted of this crime. So we are going to go through it. And thank you for being here with me, doing all of this. So here we go again. We are back from lunch at 1:21 p.m. Here we go. The court. All right, we are back on the record. Mr. McLeland, are you ready to proceed? Yes, Your Honor. The state would call Sheriff Tony Liggett. Questions by McLeland. So again, question and answers. I will often do Q, then the question, A answer, or I will just read it, and we will probably. I mean, it's not that hard. I hope to keep up with it, but I'm going to read the rest of this, and we will see how long it takes today. Thank you, Christine. Thank you for being a member for 2 whole years. Whee! Happy 2-year anniversary. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, let's see what this fucker has to say. Question, would you state your name, please? Answer, Tony Liggett. Question, answer. And Sheriff Liggett, how are you employed? I'm the Sheriff of Carroll County. And you've been Sheriff of Carroll County since January 1st of 2023. Is that correct? Correct. Yeah, he won the election by finding somebody to charge. And before that, how were you employed? I was at the Sheriff's Department as well as a deputy detective. And in fact, you're in the unique position that you were one of the lead investigators of this case. Is that correct? Correct. And when I say this case, I mean the case against Richard Allen. Correct. And how long have you been in law enforcement? I started in 2001. And did you have an opportunity to look at or review, at least prior to today at some point, the motion for safekeeping that at the time Sheriff Liggett applied for to the court? That Sheriff Lazenby, I'm sorry, yes, you're correct. Sheriff Lazenby. Yeah, at some point I reviewed it. A reminder, that hearing that they held back in early November of 2022, is not in these transcripts that we got from Carroll County Clerk of Courts. It's not in here. Now, I have seen from different sources that the appellate trial transcripts includes more than we got here. So it seems like the clerk of court, the Carroll County court, just decided to, all the things that we should have, they're simply not sending it out. Because they still, to this day, folks, almost 9 months after the sentencing, they refuse to actually let us shine a light on all of it. But this is bad enough. I mean, what we actually have. Let's continue. Okay, so you were able to review that document and see the reason for the safekeeping. Yes. And as your time as a detective and deputy, had you seen safekeeping motions like that before? I had not. No. Okay. As your time as sheriff, have you seen any safekeeping motions like that? Aside from that one, I have not. Okay. I know they happen, but I had not seen one. Sure. Are you in agreement with that motion that Sheriff at the time, Sheriff Lazenby, filed? Yes. And do you have concern that if Richard Allen is housed in our jail, that there will be some safety concerns? Yes. And have you had any direct threats? No. Have you had any emails or any kind of information conveyed to you over social media that Richard Allen's going to be hurt in your jail? No. Okay, but you still have safety concerns? Yes. Can you tell me why you have safety concerns? Our jail is extremely small. We are very even at full staff. There's probably more cert guys that brought him here today than we. If we were at full staff in our jail, I believe we have 5 full-time, a jail commander, and we're short-staffed. Our jail commander has to fill a shift. There's only one person on duty at any given time in the jail. We don't have enough staff. Hire people. Fuck what? And is part of your safety concerns about his safety from other inmates? Yes. And there is the reason for that is because of this case involves children. Yes. And you've been at least privy to that the information from the filings and some of the information from the case is going to be released to the public. You understand that? Yes. And throughout the case, we've had various leaks within the community about information that has gotten out about the investigation. Is that correct? Correct. Yeah, from you fucktwat. From the prosecution and from the cops. As more information gets out, does that heighten your concern for his safety? Absolutely. Yeah, this is self-serving. They are leaking information. Damning information. And then they are using it in court. Question. And we heard information today that there's been confessions. Does that heighten your mood or heighten your awareness for his safety? Absolutely. Those were in effect back then. Folks, this safekeeping order that they did ex parte back in November, when Judge Diener helped Sheriff Lazenby to write the safekeeping motion, then approved it, and then he fucked off. That, in my opinion, illegal safekeeping order. And had he been treated like anybody else, any other suspect of anything, especially in this case, any other suspect in this case, he would never have been arrested. But they needed him as a scapegoat, as a pansy. So they put him through everything, through hell, to get anything that they could use against him. Anything. So, anybody involved, from the sheriff's office to the prosecution's office to Judge Gull, everything you put Rick through, if you believe in the Christian God, that will be your eternity. All right, let's continue. Question. And the fact that he's confessed 5 or 6 times that he killed the 2 girls, does that heighten your concern for his safety? Mr. Rossi, Judge, I'm going to object at this point to leading. It's his witness. The court. The rules of evidence don't apply in pre-trial hearings. I'll overrule the objection. Fuck you, Judge Gull. Fuck you. It's still a court proceeding. Now, could you have used something? Just say overrule. Or just say ask it another way. But for her to say the rules of evidence don't apply in pre-trial hearings is false. There are rules of evidence in pre-trial hearings. Are they as severe as in actual trial with a jury? No, but there are still rules of evidence. Mr. Rossi, thank you. Question. And so my point is, as more information comes out about everything, does that give you more cause to be concerned about the safety in our jail? It does. And does that give you more cause to be concerned about retaliation from other inmates? Absolutely. What about when it's being transported from the jail to the hearings? Do you have concerns about his safety then? Yeah, again, our transport. We don't have a transport officer right now because he has to fill in to a shift. And when we do have one, we have one guy. During the day, at full staff on the road, we have 2 road guys on duty at any given time. Even just normal transports to and from court are a pretty big strain and safety concern for us. Question. And you kind of stated this, but typically, when you transport someone from your jail to another facility, it's a one-on-one situation, meaning you only send one officer to pick up that inmate. Correct. He's in full fucking shackles during transport, shackled to things in the transport vehicle. And at times, I think, including you, everybody within your department has had to transport an inmate. Yes, I just got back from Kentucky, picking one up there. And so my point is your staffing situation so short that even you have to transport at times. Correct. And so what concerns do you have if he's housed? Let's just start with us. If he's housed in our jail locally, what concerns do you have about transportation? Answer. The biggest one is manpower and safety. We're going to have to see if we can find other agencies to help us do those things. Yeah. How about that? You can actually ask for help. Question. Now, you know that part of the defense request is that he be moved from Westville to the Cass County Jail. Correct. And you had an opportunity to talk to the sheriff in Cass County. Correct. And if he's moved to the Cass County Jail, whose responsibility is it for transportation? Carroll County's responsibility. Do you have concerns of that happening? I do. Tell me why. Tell me why. No. Again, finding the people to do it. It'll take more than one person to do it, as people can see today, that it's going to take more than one person to make that transport, to even make it a safe transport. Oh, what a crock of bullshit. Again, when you talk about weeks and stuff like that, and the court dates are and times are open, so there's a security concern making that move. Even today for security, you had, I think, your entire department plus assistance of Indiana State Police. Is that correct? So you can do it, probably. You can do it. Isn't that weird? Correct, DNR, yeah. Okay, have you contacted the Department of Correction or any other agencies to see if they would assist in the transportation if it's moved to the Cass County Jail? Briefly spoke, and it did not sound like they were interested. Do you know what you do? You ask the court, and the court will make a court order. Hey, you fuckers over there. You are going to help transport Rick Allen. Okay, so do you have let me get right to the point. Do you have a plan if the judge orders him moved to Cass County today? Do you have a plan of action at this moment on how you're going to transport him to the next hearing? At this moment, no. Of course not, Sheriff Tony Lidgett, because you're a fucktwat. Mr. McClellan, okay, I don't have any other questions, Judge. The court, Mr. Rossi. Thank you, Judge. Question, cross-examination of Sheriff Tony Liggett. Question by Mr. Rossi. So you're suggesting that you talk to some other agencies about, or the DOC about transporting him, and that they are not really interested in doing that, right? Correct. But did they tell you they wouldn't do that? Answer. I don't know that those words came out of their mouth. I don't think so. Oh, you poor thing. Question. Did they ever suggest that if the judge ordered them to do that they wouldn't do it? Answer. No, I don't think that wasn't discussed. Okay. This case involves various law enforcement agencies, doesn't it? Yes. And frankly, one of those was the FBI, right? Correct. Indiana State Police. Correct. Local Sheriff's Department. Correct. City Police involved in some ways in this even. Correct. On the fringes. Yeah. The state police have invested, frankly, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars in resources into this case, haven't they? Yes. And they've been very public about that, hasn't the agency? I don't know how public they've been about it, but, well, holding press conferences and asking for public assistance and all these things, right? Okay, yeah. So it stands to reason that you could call the superintendent of the state police and ask him if he would be willing to help with the transport of Mr. Allen, maybe 15 miles from here, doesn't it? That could be a call, absolutely. And it would seem kind of odd if he said, we can't do that, right? After investing all of these resources into this case. Answer: the transport and housing of prisoners is not a state police thing. It's upon the Carroll County Sheriff's Office to house, transport, things like that. So it's not in their normal realm. And I don't know if they've done that in the past, but it would certainly be a phone call I would look into. Question: they assist your department with lots of other matters, don't they? Answer: with the case. Question: drug interdiction from time to time? Every once in a while. Bomb threats, right? Nope. You ever had a bomb threat where they rolled out their bomb team and brought dogs in emergency? Not to my knowledge. Vehicles and all of that? Not to my knowledge. You know that they do that, don't you? Sure, yeah. So it wouldn't be unreasonable to try and organize a 10 or 15 transport of Mr. Allen from one jail facility to another through them, would it? Answer: is that what we need to do? That would certainly be attempted to do, yeah? Question: let's talk about his safety. You acknowledge that you looked at this petition that was prepared by Sheriff Lazenby, former Sheriff Lazenby, right? Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, yes. And you would acknowledge that in this petition, there's really nothing in here that referenced any immediate threat to Mr. Allen's safety back in November when it was prepared. I will probably have to read it again. I don't recall if there was any. Okay, immediate. Let me ask you this. Were you aware of any internet, email, phone calls, anything of that nature where somebody called your department and said they're going to hurt this man? I don't specifically recall any of those. Okay. And it would stand to reason that if that happened, you probably would know, right? I would think so. Okay. Are you aware of any threats on Mr. Allen's life that had occurred since the safekeeping order was executed by Judge Diener? Directly to us? No. Okay. What about threats on your staff's life? None? No. So when Mr. McLean was asking you about your concerns about his safety, did you ever visit Westville? I have, yes. When did you visit Westville? Within this year, I believe. Okay. Did you go up and see Mr. Allen? Yes. Okay. Did you actually talk to him when you were there? No. All right. Why did you go up there? Why did I go up there? Yeah. What was the purpose for your visit? Answer: I think we went up there just to re-interview him. Okay, so you interviewed Mr. Allen at the Westville Correctional Facility. No, I don't think it ended up happening. So why were you there? Mr. Liggett, why were you there? What specifically happened that made you not re-interview Mr. Allen? What if Mr. Allen all of a sudden started singing like a bird? Why didn't you re-interview him to see, oh, something's going on, we better check this out? Fuck no, they did. Because what Rick Allen supposedly confessed was bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Nothing tangible. So if they had gone up there to interview him, they had to write it down. They had to record it. And since he hadn't said anything specifics or even said something that was provably false, then you had to alert everybody. And they didn't. So they keep more or less, in my opinion, with Dr. Walla, who I believe was in contact with either the prosecution or the investigator or both. Keep it going. We need more. So they didn't interview. They went up there not to visit Rick Allen. In my opinion, they went up there to visit Dr. Walla. They went up there to visit the warden. Get him to talk more. Is it speculation on my part? Yeah. Sue me. Or don't. I'm allowed to speculate because we are talking about absolute. We are talking about people here who lies in court, who lies in affidavits, who lies. And they lie so effortlessly that everything is in the realm of possibilities. And reading everything unfold, watching everything unfold, knowing somewhat what happened at trial, nothing is impossible and even probable that there were conversations between investigators, prosecution, and Dr. Walla. Okay, have you ever gone up there and inspected the cell block where he's being held? No. Have you ever gone up there and inspected any aspect of the facility, the maximum detention facility where it's being held? No. So why were you there then, motherfucker? So you really don't know what conditions he's dealing with on a daily basis because you haven't been there. Correct. So there's two parts to this kind of dynamic. One is his detention circumstances on a daily basis, right? Where he's housed, what circumstances he's dealing with, who's supervising, those kind of things, right? Correct. And the second part is just the idea of transporting him, frankly, once every few months, various miles from one facility to another, right? Okay, correct. Would you agree with me? The most important aspect and the biggest responsibility that you have as a sheriff is making sure that his detention situation is an appropriate one for a pre-trial detainee. Sure, he needs to be in a proper housing, sure. Right. The transportation is just kind of a byproduct of having to get him from one place to another, right? Sure. It is a very small segment of what we're dealing with, but in terms of the detention circumstances, there's a lot of safety involved with that too, but yeah. Okay. Mr. McLeland asked you said you were the lead investigator in this case. There were several of us, yes. But you were the lead investigator. Eventually, I was the lead investigator for Carroll County, yes. And so that means that you would have approved of his arrest. That I would have approved of his arrest? Yeah, that you were supportive of getting an arrest warrant to take him to jail for murder. Yeah, it was a team effort, but yes. You know, when you know people are lying like a little bitch, if he had confidence, he would have done, yes, I did it. I approve of the arrest. Me. Instead, you have this weak, Jesus Christ, are you force-fed soybeans, you little bitch? It was a team effort. Questions. You have vested interest in seeing him convicted, don't you? Yes. All right. Do you think that you're really the best one to be in charge of his care and custody? That was what I was elected to do, so yes. Okay, to do both of those things. Yes. All right. If there was another jail or custodial circumstance here that made a little bit more sense, would you be opposed to that? As long as if it's at Cass County and I have to transport, as long as I can arrange to get that transport done safely, I'm not opposed. At some point, did you receive a call from Mr. McLeland about the circumstances that I had made arrangements for in Cass County? I don't know if I received the call, but I got the information, yes. And ultimately, you were the one that kind of pulled the plug on that circumstance, weren't you? No, I don't understand how. Well, you're the one who said you wouldn't agree to move him. At that time, correct. So Sheriff Liggett didn't want Rick moved from prison to jail. And this is months prior. This is probably before Rick was in a complete psychosis and started to confess. That tells me, Sheriff Liggett, that you wanted him in prison. You knew what he was subjected to, and transporting him from prison to a jail would ruin that plan. Question. He was okay with it, wasn't he? Answer. I don't know what his position was. Did you ever ask him? I don't know. We had that discussion. And here I think Mr. Rossi ended the cross-examination a bit too soon. Okay, I don't have any further questions. But in this cross-examination, we learned that Mr. Liggett did everything in his power to keep Rick in prison. Even though he knew Cass County could take him on days' notice. And what did Liggett do? He told Cass County he would not agree to move Rick Allen. McLeland, I don't have any follow-up questions. All right, thank you, Sheriff. You may step down. Mr. McLeland, Judge, finally, the state would call Warden John Jellypoo. Warden John Jellypoo. Oh, you twat. This is the warden who allowed his staff to wear Odinist patches until he... Oh, whoopsie daisy. I'm allowing gangs to act as prison guards in my prison. Oh, you can't have those Odinist patches. And one of the guards tattooed in Odin's spear in his face. The witness sworn. Direct examination of Warden John Jellypoo. Question by Mr. McLeland. Will you state your name, please? Is he French? My name is John Jellypoo. No, I can't do that for long. And Mr. Jellypoo, how are you employed? I'm employed as warden of Westville Correctional Facility, Department of Corrections. And Mr. Jellypoo, you don't have to lean into the microphone. It doesn't amplify, it only records. Okay. So if you speak in a normal kind of outside voice, we'll all be able to hear you. Fair enough? Will do. Okay, and warden, how long have you been employed as warden of Westville? A little over 4 years. Oh, by the way, Warden Jellypoo is no longer Warden Jellypoo, at least not at Westville. Okay, and were you employed in law enforcement before that? No, I've been in Department of Corrections for 27. DOC for 27 years? Okay, yes, sir. And I want to just get kind of the nuts and bolts of this, and I want to bring your attention. You're currently housing an individual on pre-trial by the name of Richard Allen. Is that correct? Correct. And are you familiar with that inmate? I am. And are you housing him in your facility as a courtesy for Carroll County? Is that correct? Correct, sir. And is he housed in your facility? Yes, sir. Where in your facility is he housed? He is housed in APOD. Okay. Can you tell me about APOD? Answer. APOD is maximum security unit. It has 55 individuals in it. Okay. And is he segregated in that APOD? Yes, sir. And that means he's in a cell by himself. Correct. What is in that cell? Depending on his mental health orders, currently, I believe, a mattress, his legal work, and a Bible. You remember those absolute fucktwats that said, oh, Rick is having more or less the time of his life. He has a tablet. He can call everybody at any fucking time. You, Jesus Christ, you fucking morons. No, he did not have complete access of anything. Anything. Okay, and does he have a toilet in that cell? Yes, he does. Does he have a shower in that cell? No. Okay, do you know the dimensions of the cell? I believe it's 12 by 8.5. Okay, you said there's a mattress. Is there a bed frame or is the mattress on the floor? There's a bed frame. Okay, can you tell me about the bed frame? The bed frame is a standard size bed frame. It's just bolted to the floor because it's designed as a self-ending occupancy cell. You see here how they are actively trying to not say the word solitary confinement. It's a self-ending occupancy cell. He's segregated in the APOD, the max everything in a maximum security prison. Question. And so I imagine a cell that there's a bed frame, but it's directly on the floor, and that is for self-ending purposes. Correct. Or to prevent self-ending occurrences. Yes, sir. Okay, sorry. That was poorly phrased question. Why did you house him in that unit? When he got there, I don't believe he was on, because, well, first of all, that individual cell has a camera, so he could be on 24-hour surveillance. And so it was important for you to have him on 24-hour surveillance. Folks, do you know what happens when people are monitored 24 hours a day constantly? Now, in prisons, this goes to all Western world prisons, regardless. There is always people watching. But not often the actual insides of the cell. And why is that? Because, folks, people, when they are always monitored, always 24/7, 365, you get mental issues. It wrecks your mind. And how do we know that? Because of war crimes. Correct. So we're going to come back to that to the question. But specifically, why did you, when you accepted him as a courtesy hold, why do you house him in the segregation unit as opposed to Gen Pop for safety? Okay, so you have concerns about his safety. Yes, sir. Okay, why did you have concerns about his safety? Just the nature of the charges. Did you have any direct threats made to you or your facility? No. Were you made aware of any direct threats made to you or your facility? No, sir. Okay, so I want to get back to the cell that is in. You see, believe it's 12 by 8. 12 by 8.5. 8.5. And is that the same cell that everyone else in that unit has? Same size cell? Correct. All 255 beds are the same. Okay, and the mattress he's sleeping on is the same mattress as other inmates in that? Yes, sir. Podget. Is it the same mattress? Yes, sir. Okay, and talked about he has a bed. Is he currently on self-ending watch? He is. Have there been times wherein he wasn't on self-ending watch? Yes, sir. The times he's not on self-ending watch, is he in the same cell? Correct. Okay, has he been in the same cell his entire stay? His entire time? His entire time at Westville, he was segregated within the segregation unit. That's called solitary confinement. But they are desperately trying to say that's not what's going on. And there's 24-hour video surveillance on the cell? Yes. Is there audio or and video surveillance or just video? Just video. And when he's moved from that cell, is there video on him when he's moved from the cell? Yes, sir. Okay. And is he put in shackles or handcuffs when he's moved from the cell? Yes, sir. Why is that done? That's standard practice for all of them. For all the inmates in that pod. All 255. Again, we talked about this last stream. When McLeland and the investigators and people who claim Rick had the time of his life, they're always bringing up this. He was not treated any different or even better than other inmates. They say that because they compare him with people who has to be segregated from other inmates because they're extremely violent. They can't obey to orders. You're in a maximum security prison here and in the segregated unit, and not until then they can say he's being treated like everybody else. When you are supposed to compare Rick Allen's situation in prison with other pre-trial detainees who are in jail, who can get visits from their attorneys on an hour's notice, who get visits from family on an hour's notice. That's what you should compare his situation with. Not segregated within the segregation unit in a self-ending prevention cell. It's insanity. Okay, does he have time to shower? He does. How many times a week can he shower? 3 times. And does he have a change of clothes? He does. How many changes of clothes does he get? They get collected every Wednesday and distributed every Tuesday. And then when they're distributed, how many sets of clothing does he have? I believe 3. Okay, and does he have access to a commissary? He does. Has he exercised his ability to buy commissary? He has. What has he bought during, or what has he bought from commissary? I believe he bought clothing, socks, shoes, shirt, not sure about food items, but he's bought clothing and hygiene. So on top of these 3 sets of clothing he gets a week, he also has additional clothing in his cell. He does. And additional shoes, yes. Does he get time for recreation? He does. How much time does he get for recreation? 1 hour, 5 times a week. Okay, is that different from the other inmates in that facility? Again, comparing him with people he's segregated from people who are already segregated from the rest of the inmates in a maximum security prison. Okay, so it sounds like everything that is gotten up to this point is identical to the other inmates in that unit of your facility. See how he phrases that question? He doesn't phrase it as all the other inmates in your facility. The question is asked, inmates in that unit of your facility. Correct. Okay, he has a toilet in his cell. Yes. Is there any limit on the amount of toilet paper? No. When it's out, he puts the roll and we exchange it. Okay. Is there a limit on how much or often he can use the restroom? No. Is he required? Do you require him to wear the same set of clothing day after day? No. So he can change clothing at any point that he wants in his cell. Yes. Okay. Is he required to wear soiled or stained or tattered or torn clothing? No, sir. Yeah. Let's see, where did I? There it is. There's the picture. This is how he looked at one of the hearings. Now, there were some fucktwats who said, oh, the defense did that. No, you absolute cunts. They don't get that access to Rick Allen. They didn't get that access to Rick Allen. When he's driven from the facility, he's driven to jail, and then driven to court, and then he's put in the chair. Do you honestly believe that the defense could just waltz up to the transport officers and say, hey, we want to put him in soiled and stained clothes. Can you please unshackle him? No. But there are people who actually believe that. Why? Because in the 1980s, it became illegal to put clinically retarded people into state facilities. Question. And in fact, you said he had exercised his use of the commissary and he has new clothing in his cell. Is that correct? He has at one time. Yes, sir. Okay. Does he have access to an electronic tablet of some kind? He does. Tell me about that. It is a tablet from GTL. Matter of fact, he was just issued a second tablet about 2 weeks ago. He broke his first tablet, and the average person in Westville would have to replace that for $250. We gave him the opportunity for an additional tablet. Aww! So Rick Allen, during a psychotic break, something happens to his tablet, and we don't know when it broke. But then, just before this hearing, oh shit, he has been out of his tablet. Hand him a new one. Okay, so let me back up a little bit. What capabilities does he have with that tablet? If he purchases stuff, he can purchase music, download movies, but more important, phone calls. And the phone calls, are they video calls or just the typical phone calls that we're used to? Just the typical phone calls. Does he have access to be able to text people from that tablet? No. And so he was issued a tablet. He was. When he came to the facility, that tablet was broken by him. Yes. And in typical situation, it's my understanding that if an inmate breaks the tablet, you make him pay the $250 replacement fee before they get another one. Correct. That didn't happen here. No. if we go, remember just earlier in this, when he described what Rick Allen had in his cell, he never said anything about the tablet, because when Rick, this is my belief here, when Rick started to break and he started to have psychotic episodes, they took it from him, making sure he had zero contact to reinforce the psychotic break. What happened? We issued him a tablet based on behavior. We had little mental health designed, some expectation for him to meet, and he met those, and we issued him another tablet. Yeah, so I should have just kept reading. Here they said, yeah, he broke it, we took it away, and then apparently a few months later, once he got sedated enough, we gave him another one. Why would you issue him a new tablet without paying for the old when you don't have to do that with the other inmates? It's not customary. Okay. You do have medical staff on, I guess, on site at your facility. Is that correct? 24 hours. And you do have mental health personnel on site on your facility? Is that correct? We do. Yeah. Monica fucking Walla. Burn in hell, you bitch. Who actively, in my opinion, actively whispered sweet little nothings in Rick's ear. Confess, Rick. It's better for you. Something of the sort. Has he been checked out by the medical staff on a regular basis? Yes, sir. Have you gotten any reports? This is going to be a broad term. But have you gotten any reports that is unhealthy in any way? No, sir. Are you fucking kidding me? At this point in time, in June of 2023, Rick Allen is in and has been in a full-blown psychotic break for months. And you says, this piece of garbage says, have you gotten any reports? Again, listen to the wordings here. Have you gotten any reports? Not, has anybody reported to you? The wording here is important. Have you gotten reports that his BMI and his vitals are all on track, that he's healthy? Normal ranges. Rick Allen lost, I believe, 75 pounds in a matter of just a couple of months. In just a couple of months. That, Warden Jellypoo, is what you say is normal. It's not normal, folks. It is not normal. Normal ranges. Has he been checked out by medical personnel or medical mental health personnel or on a regular basis? Almost daily. And you said he's gone on self-ending watch recently. Was there a time when he was when he wasn't on self-ending watch? When he first got there, I don't think he was a self-ending watch for a while. I can't give you an exact time. But the recent past months, he has been on some sort of self-ending watch, whether it be constant or close supervision. Okay, do you know within range? Do you know when that switched from not being on self-ending to being on self-ending? Let's see, I believe we got in November 4th. Probably sometime in September. What? Nah. I think he wasn't on self-ending watch for the first couple of months. Yeah, he wasn't on self-ending watch until he was in a full-blown psychotic break early April. Okay, and was there a time in the recent past where you began to get strange behavior from him? Yes. And at that point, did you have him seen on a more often basis by the medical and mental health staff? Yes. Do you know what, for lack of better term, do you know what flipped the switch or caused or what caused flipped, the switch to be flipped. I know we went from self-ending companion to officer companion, I think, a day after he received his legal work. Okay. Mr. Rossi, I'm sorry. Would you finish that? I didn't hear what you said. We changed from self-ending companion to officer companion the day after he received his legal work. Now they claim, oh, he read about what he did and that caused him to break. No, what you saw was an innocent man seeing what they claimed about him when he was segregated within a segregated unit, also known as solitary, guarded by Odinist guards, met with Monica Walla, inmates who watched him and talked to him day after day, day after day. I'm actually amazed it took that long for them to break Rick Allen. The very fact it took them from November 4th to April 4th to break him. November, December, January, February, March, April. It took them 5 months to break him. That actually speaks to innocence, in my opinion. Because Rick Allen, we now know, has this dependency diagnosis. He's extremely dependent on his wife, Kathy. Needs constant reassuring that he's not a bad person. Constant reassuring that he is loved. Because he does not believe it. And it still took them 5 months to break him. I've said this before, and I will say it again. I have a waiver ready for anybody who claims, oh, yada, yada, yada. Give me a week. Sign the waiver. Give me a week, and I can make you say that this is a blue pen. I could probably make that happen within a few hours, but people who claims they would never admit to something that wasn't true, all right, hold out for a week then. Rick Allen held out for 5 months before they broke him. Now, I've said this before, so don't you might, for you who are new here, welcome to the show. I did my army training during the Cold War. In our training, it was included how to withstand and recognize interrogation techniques. And in order to recognize and withstand, we had to learn it. So when I say, give me a waiver and a week, and I can make you say that this is a blue pen, I'm not fucking joking. Hey, thank you. The Sybil, thank you. Saying, hey brother, I messaged you on X about this. You're doing God's work here. Keep it rolling. I don't have no fucking quit in me. Sybil said, I was a Marine Corps intelligence CS training. Yep. Same anti-interrogation techniques are standard for all military branches in the USA. Yep. So you know what? So you know, when I say this, I'm not fucking joking. I'm not fucking joking. And I've said this. I've had that challenge out. I dozens of times. None so far has taken me up on that offer. And I know that. Well, I don't know that Jerry Holman watches me specifically, but I do know he follows the case. Jerry, that challenge is for you as well. Give me a waiver and a week, and you will say that this is a blue pen. No. you don't have to be. No, you're not afraid. I think here's the difference between me and an absolute asswipe like Jerry Holman. I know these things, but I would no. I would never use it the way that I can. Jerry Holman is, I believe, a clinical moron. He, at some point in time, he was taught the read technique. He didn't understand it, so he's using it in his own special way. And when I say special, I don't mean the good kind of special. And I believe he uses the little he knows all the time because he can, because he enjoys it. He will give me a waiver a week, a car battery, and a bucket of water and washcloths, and you'll say the pen is clear. Oh. All right, let's get back to this. Question. So I want to talk about self-ending companion. What does that mean? The normal individual will have a self-ending companion. Comes from our plus unit. It is a religious unit, and the incarcerated individual would watch over him. The incarcerated individual will watch him every 5 to 15 minutes and just take notes of behavior. The incarcerated individual. Here we go again. Prison inmates. Now, I know there are people inside prison that meet God. I know there is. Do I have the confidence that those are the people this warden Jellypoo, used? No. Why? Because he's an asshole. Those logs would be reviewed by the shift supervisor and mental health staff. Did you turn those over, McLeland? Did you turn those notes over to the defense? No, you didn't. Because you're a twat. And at some point, you switch it over to having officers in your facility actually be that companion watch. 24 hours a day. Yeah. Odinist gods. Okay, so now currently he has an officer at his door or at the front of his cell who watches him 24 hours a day. Correct. Plus he's on camera in the cell 24 hours. Well, at the times he's in the cell. Yes. Is he allowed face-to-face visits with family and friends? He had at least one. Yes. Yeah. He had one. Okay. In the future, is he going to be allowed if he's held at your facility, given what you know, and the self-ending watch and all those things? Or is he going to be allowed face-to-face visits? Yes. Okay. Do inmates in that pod are they normally allowed face-to-face visits? None of them. Again, now they are still comparing with people who are segregated within a maximum security prison. They are not comparing him with other pre-trial inmates in a jail. So only he is allowed face-to-face visits, correct. Okay, did at some point you prevent him from having face-to-face visits? No. Lying sack of shit. Okay, so throughout his stay from late October, early November till now, that entire time, he was allowed to have face-to-face visits, if requested. That's a weird answer. Okay, want to talk about the attorney visits. Is he allowed to have attorney visits? Yes, sir. And you had an opportunity. Well, let me back up. Are attorneys allowed to bring cell phones into your facility? No. And have you allowed attorneys to bring cell phones in your facility in the past, at least to your knowledge? No. Okay. Are attorneys allowed to bring in computers into your facilities to meet with inmates? No, sir. Okay. If an attorney needed a cell phone or his computer to go over discovery with one of the inmates, are those accommodations you could make in your facility? Yes, sir. So why didn't you? Okay, the visitations with attorneys, are those recorded? They are for Jampop. Yes, all visits are recorded. Well, let's talk. I want to talk specifically about Richard Allen. The visitation between Richard Allen and his attorneys, are those recorded? They have been, yes. At some point, they were recorded, I think, with a handheld camcorder. Is that correct? Correct. That has stopped. It has. Why did that stop? It was requested by the attorneys? Yes, sir. Okay, are the visitations still recorded by some kind of security camera? Yes, sir. And that's a video recording with no audio, is that correct? Correct. So just to clarify, the visitations from the unit that is incarcerated in currently, there's no face-to-face visits, so it's not recorded. The visitors go out to the front desk, they would get on the kiosk system, he would get on the computer at the facility, and they would talk, they could see each other. Genpop, where we took Mr. Allen, is all surveillance. Okay, so the unit that Mr. Allenson is on, none of those inmates get face-to-face visits. None of them. Of course, Jesus Christ, it's a segregated unit because of reasons. So comparing him to those inmates, it's moronic. With attorneys, family, nothing. Well, attorneys if requested, but no family. Okay, in Mr. Allen's case, he's been allowed to visit his attorneys. And how was that facilitated? Meaning, where are they taking? That kind of thing. He was taken to the Genpop visitation room. I believe it was from 1 to 3 or so. And we closed off visitations 12:30 to 3:30, just to make sure that he had privacy and that he didn't see any other individuals. And if he has continued to be housed at your facility, are you willing to continue to accommodate the attorneys to continue to visit with him? Yes, sir. And again, you're willing to accommodate them in terms of taking a cell phone or computer in so that they can review the discovery materials with Mr. Allen? Yes, sir. Oh, I can't wait for this cross-examination. Okay, now you said his behavior has been from non-self-ending to self-ending. Has he, let me back up. Do you know specifically what changed his behavior? Answer, I believe it's when he receives his legal work. He's been on some sort of self-ending watch the entire time after that. Okay. And during that time, has Mr. Allen requested to meet with you? He's written me. Yes. And what did he write you? He wrote me numerous things. I think he sent me 5 or 6 letters, some of it. Mr. Rossi, Judge, may we approach? Yeah. Sidebar! Mr. Rossi says, I'm not sure if we're going to start having discussion about discovery that I don't have. Mr. Baldwin, that's why I'm kind of like, Mr. Rossi, I'm not aware of any of these letters. To that extent, I'm going to start objecting because the court, okay, not sure what he's going to say. The court, do you have them? Yeah, I've been reaching out. Inaudible. That would be inaudible. Number 11. Clerk of court has a hearing impairment, apparently. This is 11. Number 11. We are at, what is it? Volume 2 out of 21. And the volume 1 was table of contents. This is the first volume, and we are at 11 inaudibles. The court, do you have them? Yeah, I've been reaching out inaudible. The court, have you provided them to him? Yes, I believe so. Okay, well, because he needs them. Sidebar conference concluded. I believe so. What the fuck is that kind of answer? No, they didn't have it. Question: when Mr. Allen first came to your facility, was he taking advantage of the recreational time that he was afforded? Oh, he changed the subject really, really fast there. Answer: it was hit or miss. Sometimes he would just refuse to go to rec. Sometimes he went. Okay, has he refused? Has he ever refused any meals? Yes. Okay, can you tell me about that? It's off and on, you know. We record them. We declare him on a hunger strike after his 4th missed meal. I don't know how many hunger strikes he's been on, but he typically eats. I check those logs every day. I know he ate breakfast this morning around about 4 o'clock. And was he exercising not only at rec time, but was he exercising in his cell on a regular basis as well? Was he exercising in his cell? Yeah, on occasion. Yes, sir. This is them trying to explain why he lost 75 pounds. And throughout this time, again, he's being seen by medical and mental health staff on a regular basis his entire stay there? Correct. Okay. Do you continue to this day to have concerns for his safety? Currently, where he's housed at, I don't. Okay. If he was moved to Gen Pop, would you have concerns for his safety? I would. And has the mental health or medical staff expressed any concerns to you that would cause you to have concerns for his health or well-being? Mr. Rossi, I'm going to object to. We kind of talked about this in chambers. We're getting to HIPAA issues here. On that basis, I object. The court sustained. Wow. Yeah. But later on, we know that she approved of releasing Mr. Allen's mental health records. And Judge Gold did it because she kind of had to, because it was clear that that McClelland already knew. He made references to things that only Dr. Waller could have known, proving to me that Waller and McClelland have spoken to each other throughout this. Make him confess. I'm trying to. Have you seen anything in the reports that you get that Mr. Allen was being treated unfairly in your facility? I have not. Is he being treated different from other inmates in your facility? No, sir. Oh, really? In fact, it sounds like he's getting more benefits than the inmates in your facility. That is true. When he's transported from your facility, does DOC, are they the ones to take care of the transport? Correct. And they're the ones that have the manpower, supply the manpower to transport him. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Mr. McClelland, I don't have any other questions, Judge. Thank you. The court. Mr. Rossi, cross-examination of Warren John Jellypoo. Questions by Mr. Rossi. So Mr. McClelland asked you about his cell. I think you said it was a 12 by 8.5 room. Is that right? Correct. I'm sure you saw the motion I filed with the court alleging some of the circumstances at your facility. I believe so, yes. And in that motion, I'm looking at it right now, it says a 6 by 10 room. Does that sound consistent with what I've reported to the court? I'm unaware of any 6 by 10 room. Okay, but was that consistent with what I reported to the court? I believe so, yes. So I was a couple of feet off, right? A few, all right. 2 feet one way and 2 feet the other, right? Yes, sir. All right. So I think what I've heard today is from the minute Mr. Allen was assigned to your facility that he was placed in a what I call a self-ending cell. Is that correct? Yes, correct. He wasn't necessarily on self-ending watch, but he was detained as if he was prone to self-ending. Answer: he was put in that room for the camera at the time, yes. Okay, so those circumstances has remained throughout his stay, right? Yes. And that was before there was any mental health assessment of him or anything of that nature which suggested that he was prone to self-ending, right? Correct. I believe he was on self-ending watch a few months after he was there. Question. Do the other cells in the maximum security unit have cameras in them? Only 4. Okay, so there's a difference between the circumstances he's detained in that maximum security unit and 50 other cells, right? Just the camera, correct. Well, pretty significant difference, isn't it? Sure. Having somebody staring at you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week versus not, right? Sure. It's my understanding that this unit that Mr. Allen is detained in is the most higher security unit within your facility, right? At Westville? Correct. Yeah. We talked earlier, you weren't in here, but it's kind of a prison within a prison, really, isn't it? It's separated, correct. Yeah. Has its own gates that you have to go through even after you get into the facility. It does. Well, and the most heinous of criminals are often housed in that facility, aren't they? Half of them. Half of the most heinous inmates? It's a 255-bed facility. Half of them are department-wide, and the other half are Westville offenders. Okay. So half of them are people that are level 2 offenders. People that have been convicted of the most heinous crimes you and I can imagine, right? There's some bad crimes in there, yes. Yeah, and it's basically detained right next to them, right with them, isn't he? Yeah, sure. Okay, and those people are actually, these heinous offenders in your facility are actually set aside and removed from your Yen Pop, aren't they? Correct. You wouldn't house those people with the people in Yen Pop, would you? Say that again. You wouldn't house those people with the people in Yen Pop. I mean, like I said, half of the facility is designed for level 2 Westville offenders. So whether they're in there for a day or a year, when they're released, they go back to Yen Pop. Okay. Now, did you have a chance to see Mr. Allen when he was first housed in your facility back in November? I believe so, yes. Okay, did he look anything like he looks now? Similar. Does this look fucking similar, you absolute tool? Mr. Jellypoo? Does this look fucking similar, you lying sack of shit? He lost a lot of weight, hasn't he? He lost some weight. All right. And in terms of just his overall mental health, regardless what's to blame for it, it definitely deteriorated, hasn't it? It's changed. Yes, for the worst, right? It changed. Yeah, for the worst, hasn't it? It's off and on. I mean, I spoke to him yesterday. He spoke fine. Okay, but the point is that he doesn't look the same, does he? He lost some weight. And he's not acting the same, is he? On occasion, like I said, he spoke clearly to me yesterday and last week. Nothing, sir. Warden Jellypoo. If I get the chance in the afterlife to look down to where people like Jellypoo is situated, I will ask for permission for at least for a few seconds, just a few seconds, make them look at me so I can point at them and laugh as I'm standing, hopefully upstairs, with Mr. Allen, just pointing at them, laughing at them, because what they did to Allen lasted for years. What their punishment will be eternity. But he's engaged in some conduct in your facility that's frankly pretty unsanitary. To his doings, yes. Yeah. Now, to the extent that he was, you said earlier that he was prone to self-ending, right, at some point. I said he was put on self-ending watch. Okay, well, was he self-ending? Mental health put in there. You didn't have anything to do with that. No. Okay, did you ever suggest that anybody at your facility reach out to either Mr. Baldwin or I to talk to us about his circumstances? I have not personally, no. Okay, do you know anybody else in your facility that suggested that to do that? I have not, no. Okay, do you know anybody in your facility that suggested that we should reach out to the sheriff in Carroll County and maybe let him know what's going on up here? Not to my knowledge, no. You're aware, I assume, that I made a request to actually just inspect or look at his cell when I was up there on one occasion. Yes, sir. And I'm kind of gathering this from what I experienced, but was there ultimately a phone call to you about whether or not I should be able to do that? There was communications, correct. And were you the one that suggested to Captain Lewis that I couldn't do that? I said that no one can go in his cell until I get authorization. Okay, it was an unusual request for me to just go see his cell for anybody. This is Warden Jellypoo. Not only did they withhold this information from the defense that Rick Allen was fastly deteriorating and in a full-blown fucking psychotic episode, they hindered them to actually go see his cell. How far away was that at the time I asked for that? I'm not sure. I'm just saying it was an unusual request. I've never had that request before. I mean, I was in the same building, right? Correct. Probably just right around the corner, right? Correct. Are you aware that I filed another request, a more formal request to get in your facility? I'm not sure I've seen that one, no? Okay. Has your DOC staff or attorneys talked to you about any of that? They do. We communicate. All right. But that's not happened as we sit here today, has it? I just don't recall of it, no. No, that I've had a chance, or my staff had a chance to go in and see the circumstances under which he's detained. It has not. This is something, to my understanding, if he was in a jail, that's not an abnormal request. Can I please see his cell? Sure. Let's go over there. Here they are actively hindering the defense attorneys to take a peek at Rick's cell. All accounts of what Rick's cell looked like, what was in it, are from the staff, from people who have an active, let's just say they're biased. And then defense got a hold on a few videos, which included things that, at this point in time, Rick banged his head against the wall in a full-blown psychotic break. He ate his own feces. I mean, flooded his cell. He did a lot of fucking things in that cell because he was in a psychotic break. All of that information was withheld from the defense up until very close, because they didn't want the defense to know. Now, with regard to this tablet that you referenced, you said that he has the ability to make phone calls on that tablet, right? He does. So he could, theoretically, call his family, right? I think 3 family members are listed. Okay. But anything he said to them about his case would be recorded by your facility. Recorded by GTL. Okay. Which is subcontract with them. Correct. And so you have access to all that. I do not. Well, somebody that in that facility has access. Internal affairs. Okay, you have, answer, his family members would. You have an investigative team or something, right? I do. Okay, and so they're the ones that monitor all those calls, right? Only one has capability of it. I'm sorry? Only one investigator has the capability of it. Okay, so anything that he would communicate to his family, if it was at all remotely related to his case, you would know about it, or the investigator would know about it. If they listen to it, correct. Well, they're listening to it, aren't they? I'm not sure. Well, has anybody asked you to monitor any of that? Has anybody asked me? Yeah. No, all inmates are recorded. They're all recorded. Are you aware that the prosecutor has offered up phone calls and stuff to us? Say that again. Are you aware that the prosecutor, Mr. McLeland, had offered up phone calls and other things, recorded calls to us? Well, the calls for the attorneys are not recorded. No, I'm talking about the family members. The warden is just playing stupid here. Specifically what? Are you aware that the state has offered up to us various phone calls of recorded conversations from that facility? Not that I'm aware of, no. How the fuck does a warden of a prison, how does he not know that their prosecution went to these internal affairs to pull those phone calls? How can he actually sit on that stand and claim that he has no idea that happened? Everything goes through him. Nobody's ever asked you about any of that. Not that I'm aware of, no. So apparently, the investigative part of your staff is not communicating with you about his circumstances. I'm just now aware about his phone calls. Okay, and your position is, with regard to our access to the facility, that we are not allowed to have cell phones in there. No attorneys are allowed to have cell phones. Okay. Did anybody tell you I had a cell phone in there the first time I went in there? Yeah, the shakedown sergeant. Oh, okay, all right. After that occurred, right? Say that again. I took a cell phone in there the first time, didn't I? And the second time. Right. And then all of a sudden, the rules changed, didn't they? Answer, the rules never changed. Attorneys weren't allowed to have cell phones. Well, then the enforcement of them changed, didn't it? No, it's not. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Question. Now with regard to videos, this video circumstance. Well, let me back up. Have you ever, in your time as a warden, housed a pre-trial detainee that's not been convicted of a crime at any point in their life? Not that I'm aware of, no. Okay, first time right, for me. And you acknowledge there were circumstances for a couple of months where your staff members were videotaping our visits with our client. Only video, yes. Okay. And in fact, you actually assigned a correctional officer that carried a video camera around and followed us around the facility into the room where we were meeting. Anytime he was out of the cell, correct. And that correctional officer was asked essentially to stage him or herself at the window next to where we were meeting. When he was on self-ending watch, we had to, yes. Okay, and that was never communicated to us before we visited with him, was it? I'm not sure what was communicated to you. You certainly didn't do it, right? Do what, sir? You certainly didn't communicate that to us. Not to you, no. And you didn't communicate to your officer to tell your officer to communicate it to us. No, sir. You just did it. Yes, sir. And at some point, there were concerns raised by us that we didn't have any privacy, wasn't there? There was. And I'm assuming your legal team at the DOC suggested that you stand down with regard to that videotaping. That was the decision. Okay. And do you have any need to do that in the future when we're meeting with him? I don't. Okay. We'll need constant visual. If he's on mental health, constant... okay. We'll need constant visual if he's on mental health, constant observation. But you don't have any need to videotape attorney-client meetings. Right. No, sir. You have a videotaped attorney-client meetings with another inmate? I believe so. And who was that? I believe it was Mr. Campbell. Okay. And when was that? Oh, probably a year ago. Was it in the same facility? Yes, sir. Or does any of that go on outside of the maximum security unit in the Yen-Pop? Yen-Pop, they are all recorded. They're always what? They're always recorded. Well, do you have a specific officer assigned to each of those individuals as you move them around to visitation with their attorneys? No, I take them to the visitation room. All right. Basically, there's normal surveillance up in the corner. Right. Correct. Do you, to the extent that Mr. Allen is afforded visitations with his family, do you have any problem with him having water during those visitations? It would be an exception. You have to make an exception for him to have a drink? It would be an exception. Okay. Inmates aren't allowed to have water when they visit with their family? No food or water during visits. Okay, well, the visitation room we were just in a week or two ago had vending machines from wall to wall, right? They can take them back. What? Okay, so nobody can drink water? Not in the visitation room. But I'm pretty sure I saw a water fountain over on the wall when I was in there, right? There may have been. You're not sure if there is? It's probably for staff if there is. So what they have is the capability. Hey, you inmate, here you are with your attorney or a family member for a couple of hours. You will get thirsty and we can have a drink of water, but you can't. Okay, I had a chance to review some articles regarding your facility. Are you generally aware that your facility is kind of in the midst of an overhaul? We are rebuilding, yes. There's a gentleman, it looks like, by the name of Kevin Orm. Do you know him? Kevin Orm? Orme. I'm sorry. Yes. He's the Director of Construction Services of the Indiana Department of Corrections. Yes, sir. And I see that there's been a lot of, well, frankly, the state had decided, essentially, tear your facility down and renovate it, right? Or remodel it. To rebuild. Okay. Get rid of what you have now and replace it with something new in the future. Right. It's $1 billion project, right? I'm not sure of the money. And there's been plenty of coverage regarding the circumstances and the ability. The circumstances at your facility. Isn't that right? Say that again. Well, there's been plenty of media coverage regarding the circumstances at your facility. I assume so. And there's been findings, in fact, that it's basically, it doesn't meet the modern safety and security standards and operation needs of your staff members. I'm not aware of that. How the fuck are you not aware of that? You, at that point in time, you've been the warden for 4 years, during which time that investigation into your facility was happening. And they concluded, you have to rebuild your fucking prison because it's a fucking disgrace. And here you are, under oath, in a hearing saying, I'm not aware of any of that. Are you drunk or high or both? Question, okay? Answer. Westville, a pretty safe facility. Well, do you read any of this literature? I didn't read that. All right. I'd say Westville is a pretty safe facility. Question. Your facility was recently sued for violations that occurred in the very unit where Mr. Allen was housed. I don't know specifically what you're talking about, no. Well, I just think I saw an article where somebody selling for a lawsuit for $400,000 for wrongful detention in that facility. Not since I've been there. You don't know anything about it. Not since I've been there. You fuck twat. In the motion that I filed, I actually included that article as a footnote. Did you see that? Not since I've been there. I've been there for 4 years. Did you review this particular motion that I filed with the court? Yes. Okay. You saw the photos I attached of Mr. Allen. I'm not sure I saw any photos, no. I'm sorry. I don't think I saw any photos. Handing you what's been marked as... Oh, I saw that. You're aware of this photo, right? I saw that. And you're aware that I basically took exception to the condition that he was in at the time, right? Apparently so. All right. And you would acknowledge, I assume, by just looking at that the clothing he's wearing, it's soiled and stained, isn't it? It is. He just got out of the rec area on that particular day. All right. And your rec area is where? He was offered the opportunity to go back and change. He refused. Isn't that fucking convenient? That once they managed to grab a picture of him at the... Oh, yeah, I remember he refused. You lying sack of shit. Okay. In his cell, he had brand new clothes that he purchased of commissary. Does his shirt get that brown and that stained all in that rec period? I didn't inspect him before he went to rec. Okay. Is the rec area there in that confinement area the maximum facility area? Is there a rec area? Yeah. There's several of them. Right. Well, let's talk about that. Outside of the walls of that maximum security facility, in the rest of the prison, there's all kinds of rec opportunities, aren't there? Basketball courts? There is. How many do you have? 4, 5, or 6 on the grounds? Probably. Volleyball courts? No. Baseball diamonds? Yes. Plenty of areas where people could move about and recreate, right? Correct. But in this particular situation, you have a confined area that's just a small cage, just outside of the maximum security unit, right? Not correct. Well, what does that rec area look like? Actually, we just renovated it. So the rec area has a brand new bike. It has a brand new rowing machine on the inside rec area. The outside rec area has pull-up bars and it has a basketball net. Okay. Is there anything in that rec area? People could go out and play in the mud or in the sand or anything like that? No. So he wouldn't have any reason to look like he did in that photograph, right? I'm not sure how he got that stain on his shirt. Okay, well, did you? When you saw that photograph, did you go back and check the video to see, wait a minute, why does he look like he does? No. You have this companion program at the prison. We do. And basically, the program calls for you to post somebody at the jail cell or the door of any particular individual in there, right? Okay, they changed subject here. Yeah. That picture... This... Oh. It's so stupid. No. Warden is just making excuses. It's mind-boggling. But Warden Jelly Poo is no longer a warden. That's some slight comfort. You have this... basically, the program calls for you to post somebody at the jail cell or the door of any particular individual in there, right? If they're on some sort of mental health watch, yes. Okay, so when somebody's sick and they're having a mental health problem, the response is to basically stick a felon at their door and let them monitor that person, right? No, if they're sick and have severe mental health problems, they'll be moved to the infirmary. Okay, but in this case, you engaged this companion plan, didn't you? Excuse me, I did what? You were using companions with Mr. Allen, weren't you? We were for the first couple of months, yes. So these people are essentially convicted felons, aren't they? They're convicted, yes. Well, they're felons too, aren't they? I'm sure. You don't have misdemeanants running around in your prison, do you? Not that I'm aware of. And certainly don't give access to the maximum security unit to those kind of people, right? Nope. And so you've got inmates that are sitting at the door with somebody who's sick, and you don't necessarily know what they are talking about, do you? Sick meaning health-wise, or yes, mental health issues. I'm really unaware of his mental health issues other than I knew he was on some sort of watch. And you're also unaware of what those companions are saying to those inmates, aren't you? They're not supposed to be saying anything. Well, but you don't know that they are or aren't, do you? I don't know that they are. Ooh. Let's see here. Check my DMs. Oh, wait a minute. Sybil, is it? Oh, it's you. It's little Lodel Miss. Ah, why did you change your name? Ah. Thank you for being here. Thank you. He told me to check my Excel. I'm fully involved in this. Hello, Mr. Jingles. Hey, Mr. Jingles is here. Oh, hello, Mr. Jingles. Hello. Hello, buddy. If you haven't seen him before, this is Mr. Jingles. He's the actual owner of this channel. He runs everything here. I'm just the face of it. And if I don't do good, I will no longer have a face because Mr. Jingle. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right, let's continue. I don't know that they are. They're pretty trustworthy people for the most part. They would not ever go back in the Gen Pop and breach any of those confidences. Would that? That's not what I'm saying. Mr. Rossi, 1 second, Your Honor. Question. You got a very worthy team of transport of... Okay, so change the subject again for some reason. You got a very worthy team of transport officers that has been, frankly, very kind to us. Is this a team that you use in other circumstances when you're transporting individuals to and from facilities? Yes. And is it a team that is trained to do this? And frankly, that's their kind of primary responsibility. It's one of their responsibilities, yes. They're trained. Pretty good at it, right? They are. I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, that housing Mr. Allen in this case has been quite a burden with all the lawyers involved and the demands and the visits and all the accusations. It's one of many challenges. Okay, so the answer is yes. It's a challenge. It can be. If the judge were to just ask your facility or ask you for the use of your transport team to maybe move him to and from a county jail 15 or 20 miles or 30 miles, whatever that may be, they would be capable of doing that, right? They would be capable, yes. Okay, I have no further questions. Mr. McClelland, thank you, Judge. The sudden breaks in the subjects here are... There are probably pauses of a few minutes while they are discussing, okay, what's the next, because we can't get more information out or anything. Redirect examination of John Jellypoo. Question by Mr. McLeland. Warden, I want to show you again what is marked as Defendant's Exhibit A. Yes, do you recognize that photo? I do. Okay, I want to ask you some questions to put in context this photo. The defense has alleged that this photo exhibits that their client is being mistreated, and I want to make sure I get the language right. That he's held in a cell no bigger than a dog kennel, and that he's the prisoner of war, and I want to use this photo to illustrate that those things are true. So I want you to tell me about this photo. Did somebody on your staff take this photo? Mr. McLeland, you have the worth of the mucus of an pig's infected ass crack. Did somebody on your staff take this photo? No. Do you know who took the photo? I believe the attorneys did. Okay. And you started to say this, and I think Mr. Rossi cut you off a little bit. But when this photo was taken, where was he coming from? Rec? Straight from the rec area. And how long had he been in the rec area? Probably 45 minutes or so. And the shirt that he's wearing, You don't know how he got torn. I don't. Well, Mr. Warden, Mr. Jellypoo, you have video surveillance, don't you? You recorded in that wreck area. Isn't that weird that you decided to not go check that video? Is it because you're a lying sack of shit, Warden Jellypoo? Did he wear a different shirt every time he went to wreck, or the same shirt every time he went to wreck? I believe he wore the same shirt. How the fuck would you know? He was saving his other shirts for attorney visits, from what I was told. And so that shirt that he's wearing there, you believe that's the shirt he wore for a wreck every time he went to wreck? You lying sack of shit. I know he wore that shirt to wreck and then went straight to see his attorney. Okay. I wanted the video to see how his shirt was so dirty. Oh, really? But at the time that photo was taken, he had clean clothes in his cell. That is correct. Did he have new clothes for commissary in his cell? Yes. So you knew the attorneys was on the way, and you didn't. Yeah. Question. Okay, and did you or your staff attempt to change him out of his rec clothes before he met with the attorneys? No. We wouldn't have saw that stain because his jumpsuit would have been buttoned up. Excuses, excuses, excuses. Okay, I thought you had made a comment before that he refused to change clothes. He came straight from the rec area. He had opportunity to change clothes and he did not. Okay. So he had the opportunity to change before he met with his attorneys, and he decided not to. Didn't you also say he went directly from the rec area to meet with his attorneys, but all of a sudden, oh no, he had opportunity? What is it, Warden Jellypoo? Which one is it? Did he go, was he transported directly from the rec area to his attorneys, or was he transported from the rec areas to his cell and then to his attorneys? Which one is it? Is he clothing shirts like that on a daily basis? No. If he is, again, that's his decision. He has clean clothes and his clothes are laundered every week. So if his clothes are laundered every week, how did this shirt get this dirty? Okay, I don't have any other questions, Judge. Oh, the court, Mr. Rossi. Recross examination. Question, do you know if he chose not to change clothes on that particular day? He went from the rec area back to his cell where he had the opportunity to change clothes. Were you transporting him? No. But Miss Warden Jellypoo, he's always transported. But now all of a sudden you say no? Did you have anything to do with him going to the rec area to the cell? I did not. Where were you physically when he went from the rec area to the cell? I might have been home. I can't tell you. Okay, you don't really know. But I watched the video and I saw it. Okay, Mr. McLeland filed a response in this case to the motion that well, let me ask you this. You recall me filing a motion with a bunch of these allegations about his conditions, right? I saw it, yes. You're intimately familiar with that, I'm assuming. I'm familiar. And Mr. McLeland called you before when he was dealing with this issue, didn't he? And asked you about all these things. I believe so, yes. And in his response, I'm looking at it right here, and it said, quote, he had clean shirts in his cell at the time of the photo, but defense chose to photograph him in his dirty shirt in order to curry up sympathy in the public eye for the defendant, end quote. I didn't have any choice of what he was wearing that day, did I? You did not. So I didn't choose to photograph him in that circumstance, did I? Well, you chose to photograph him, yes. But it wasn't prompted by me that he was wearing that stuff, was it? Answer, I'm not sure what it was prompted by. Question, are you aware of any? Well, first of all, this vest that he's wearing today, you know what this vest is? Ballistic vest. Yeah. Are you familiar with the technology involved in these? I mean, I'm familiar. It's a ballistic vest. Is it basically a shocker collar? Is there an electric charge that you can use or not? Is there an electric charge built into that vest? Yeah, I don't know. Is it, if it's a stun vest, this vest? I'm not sure what type of vest it is. Is there some kind of belt on him that has an electric charge that you can employ if there's a safety issue? There should be one during transportation. There is. I'm not sure what's on him now during transportation. If the CERT team decides to use one, that's pretty standard. Let's get back. Weren't you having security concerns, or whatever, whoever said it had security concerns during transportation? Rick Allen would have been shackled, head, feet, hands, bolted to the floor in the car with a shock collar. Where's the fucking danger? Okay, very standard. Do you know that your staff had him on a leash when they brought him into visitation the other day? A restraint chain? It looked like a leash to me. It was like what you'd be. We don't call it a leash, but a restraint. Well, it's the same purpose, right? It's for control. Just like you would control a dog if you put a leash on them. Just like we control the other 255 offenders. Just like you would control a dog if you put a leash on them. That's not correct, sir. Nothing further. Thank you, Warden. You may step down. You're welcome, ma'am. Judge, the state has no other witnesses. Any rebuttal witnesses, Mr. Rossi? No, ma'am. Argument. Whew. Mr. Rossi, Judge, this is ended up right where I thought I was going to be. And I'm just going to point the judge to the law. The court to the law, I mean. That's what's matter here is the law. 35-33-11-1 requires that there be, not there be some speculations about this, but that there be some imminent threat of serious bodily injury or death, or that he represents some substantial threat to safety of others. And there has been, not before the order was signed by Judge Diener, or after the order was signed by Judge Diener, not an iota of evidence to suggest that there is an imminent chance of serious bodily injury to anybody or any circumstance. I sympathize and understand fully how this happened. That's not the defense's beef today. Clearly, we had a lot of people that were dealing with some circumstances that they hadn't dealt with before, and clearly, they were making some decisions on a rush. And clearly, when you do that, you have a tendency to do things that maybe, when you look back, you're like, oh, I probably would have handled it a little differently. But the problem here is that there was an attempt to cure this, to make it right, to get him in a situation that was healthier situation long before this thing kind of went off the rails. And essentially, that attempt was kiboshed, for lack of a better word, by the sheriff, Sheriff Liggett, who told you today he wasn't going to agree because he couldn't transport. Now, let's get back to the kind of the foundational legal issues. The first one is that they haven't met their burden of proof. I've argued to the court already that there's a due process issue here just simply because there was no judiciary finding of any kind or any evidence ever introduced to support the initial order that was entered. And if you look at the initial order, it very much mirrors. And this is all starting to make sense to me now because it was done by, sounds like, the same person. But it all mirrors the request by the sheriff, and it's all about speculative safety concern and all those kind of things, which again, I understand that. I understand why they had those concerns, but that doesn't meet the legal standard to put him in a maximum security facility where he is treated and housed, frankly, in the same sense as the most heinous criminals in the state of Indiana. He's the only pre-trial detainee in 5, 6, 7 years of experience for these officers that got up here that's ever been in that circumstance. And the state wants to come in today. The state, who frankly agreed to move him at one point, now is coming in. Mr. McClellan is doing his job, and I understand that. The sheriff department is part of his bailiwick. But they want to come in today and they want to compare his circumstances for that of a guy who's down the hall from him, who's a convicted SM, 3-time murder, or whatever it is. You've heard all that, all the crimes that these people have committed. That's not the comparison. Under the Equal Protection Clause in the 14th Amendment, we're comparing him with the circumstances under which other pre-trial detainees are detained. You can't put someone in Guantanamo Bay and say they're getting treated the same as the next inmate in Guantanamo Bay. Doesn't work that way. That's not what the Equal Protection Clause is about. It's about treating him like other pre-trial detainees who are similarly situated. People in the Cass County Jail, people in the Tippecanoe County Jail, frankly, people in the Carroll County Jail. Just like Officer Lazenby said, they've had other people charged with murder in these counties. This isn't the first pass. And so don't fall for that trick of, quote, hey, we're treating him just like the guy down the hall, because that's the wrong comparison. It's not the right analogy. And that's not what the Equal Protection Clause requires. The due process argument is also a 14th Amendment argument. It basically is similar in that he was not afforded any due process because there was no evidentiary hearing. There was no standard set. It was just an order that was struck by the former judge in this case. And so we would rest our arguments on that as well. The 6th Amendment claim, and I think the court probably senses where we're going with this, but he has a right to counsel, and that right extends to privacy and some convenience, and just his overall ability to communicate with us so that we can defend him in some reasonable manner. But what the court has learned today is that, first of all, just demographically, I should say geographically, it's an hour-and-a-half drive just to get to his same airspace. And that's just to get to the front door. Beyond that, there's layers upon layers of security we got to go through, and eventually, when we do get access to him, it's in a setting that's not overly comfortable, not overly convenient. We've been, different places, different times, but the bigger problem is that we have no privacy. There's no privacy when we're meeting with him. We show up at the jail one moment, and we're taking our cell phones in the prison, and the next moment we show up, and we got to take our cell phones to the car. And we come back the next week, and we walk in, and we got a jail officer, correctional officer, following us around with video cameras. I mean, it's the most bizarre thing that's ever happened to me in the 20 years I've been doing this. I still can't understand it. But basically, we're meeting with him. He's sitting in the middle of the room in a plastic chair that they chose to sit him in. Not one of the half-padded chairs that was sitting right next to us. And they got a video camera affixed to us for half an hour or an hour in an 85-degree room, whatever it is. None of this is convenient. None of this facilitates an attorney-client relationship. You feel like you have no privacy. You feel like you have no ability to communicate with him in any sense, with any sense of confidentiality. And at this point, in this case, we are consumed as a defense team. We're dealing with his detention. We're barely consumed with the facts, and it is starting to get to the point where it's overwhelming. We have not the time to focus on the things that are important, which is the guilt and innocence phase of this case. And all we're dealing with are DOC attorneys, wardens, captains, correctional officers. We go up there and we get to ride in the back of a van on a wheel well. I mean, I get it. The people who are doing this are nice, but we get transported in a van and we sit on a wheel well in the back of a van. That's how we get to him. It's got to stop. And I'm asking Your Honor to intervene. And I think hopefully what you heard today is, look, there could be a combination of a couple of things here. We could find a facility like Cass County, which is a 2-minute walk from my front door and much closer for Mr. Baldwin to visit. And we could use the DOC because you have the power of the pen to transport him. We could still do that. It would remove 90% of the burden on them of having to detain him and dealing with people like me, frankly, because I think they're tired of me, and I don't blame them. But I have a job to do, and that would be a nice combination of both. We could employ the state police. They have invested so many resources in this case. The idea that they couldn't somehow picking up from a county jail and driving down the highway a few miles to the courthouse is just, that's beyond me. I don't know how you could explain it that away. I mean, clearly, they have the ability to do that. This is not rocket science. I'm just asking the court to intervene, recognize that his basic fundamental rights is being deprived of those, and to fix this situation. Confessions, non-confessions, incriminating statements, non-incriminating statements, however you want to phrase all that, we'll deal with that. And, a jury is going to hear about all that when the time's right. But right now, we're talking about the rights of a pre-trial detainee. And, there's a lot of case law in this. I spent some time looking at that. Most of it's referenced in my pleadings. I think the foundational case, give me 1 second here so I can find my case law. One of the foundational cases on the due process issue, the equal protection issue, is Rem v. Malcolm. And that citation is 507 F2D 333. It's a 1974 case. It's a good law. It's been around for a long time. And basically, what you're going to find if you read that is that he is to be compared with other people that are similarly situated to him, not people who are on, and I coined it, death row. That's my term, that's my phrase, but it's not inaccurate. He is to be compared with other people in his situation, and that is what I'm asking the court to consider and grant our request to essentially remove the safekeeping order altogether or modify it to another circumstance that's much more amendable and allows us to represent him, and is much more convenient so we can get on with the real merits of the case. Yeah, good argument. I mean, they have the law on their side. They have the case law on their side. And we now know that Judge Gull does not care about law. She doesn't care about case law. If Judge Gull believes your client is guilty, she will defecate on the Constitution, on the Bill of Rights and Amendments. She will move mountains to get a conviction if she believes your client is guilty. She will do absolutely anything. She is by far the worst judge I've ever known about. And I'm actually including the cash for kids judges in this. Because the cash for kids judges, they got caught. Judge Gull has been a judge for decades. Everybody in Indiana knows what she's doing. The appeals court, the Supreme Court, they all know. And they do nothing. They allow her to continue. So I don't know what she sacrifices to Satan each morning to keep doing what she's doing. But there's something essentially wrong with her. And she's being backed up by the other Indiana judges. The court. Mr. McLeland, before you go. Mr. McLeland, sure. Mr. Rossi, the court says, Mr. Rossi, you raised your Sixth Amendment right to counsel that expense to privacy and convenience, but your argument seems to focus on your convenience. What? When you were appointed by this court, Mr. Allen was already at the Department of Corrections, so you were well aware, as was Mr. Baldwin, of the hour-and-a-half drive and the layers of security that would be imposed. Nobody asked DOC if they would transport, just that they were available to transport. So we don't have the answer to that particular question, correct? Mr. Rossi, I don't know that I specifically asked them that. The court, you didn't. It certainly wasn't intentional. The court, that's why I'm saying you didn't ask him that. And I don't know if anybody asked ISP either. Has anybody asked ISP? I haven't. I don't think it's my job. The court, okay. Judge, I guess, just be candid. Okay. I did talk to an ISP official over lunch and said, is that possible? And the answer I got was, we don't know. Court, okay. Mr. McLean, I mean, that was not enough time to figure that out. The court. I just want to make sure that we're all talking apples and apples, not apples and oranges. Oh, you can't. Mr. McClelland, sure. The court. You also argue that he's being detained basic fundamental rights. Which specific fundamental rights is he being denied? Mr. Rossi, I don't think I said he was being denied basic. I thought you did. The 5th, the 14th Amendment, and the 5th, 6th Amendment are the arguments I'm making with the court. Okay. And I pled those in my pleading. Okay, very clearly. I think maybe I'm grouping those things together. Okay, thank you. And then the citations to your authority. You have cited the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, District Court in Massachusetts, Ohio, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, the California Circuits, Connecticut Circuits, and Missouri Circuits. Do you have any Indiana law? No, I just offer up federal law that. Okay, so all that you provided to me is federal law. Yes. You're not cited any state law. Yes, I think it's prevailing federal law. I do. And that court says, I have no problem with federal law, but you cited no Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals which controls our circuit. Nope. Okay. That's what I found. Is there any? Not that I'm aware of. No, for fuck's sake, Judge Gull, and you know this, because this situation has never happened before. Nobody in the history of modern history of Indiana has ever been this evil against a pretrial detainee. There are no case law, because up until this point, up until Mr. McClelland became a prosecutor, nobody in their right mind would ever do this to a pretrial detainee. That's why there's no case law like this, because nobody up until Mr. McClelland had this absolute lack of ethics, absolute lack of morals. It's unique, and that is why there's no case law in Indiana, because nobody up until this point in time ever thought about doing this to a pretrial detainee. Okay, Mr. McClelland, thank you, Judge. As I said in the beginning, the state is in a unique position. The state doesn't have a huge concern of where he's housed. The state does believe he should be held without bond. That's not the hearing here. And we believe that's because of the evidence we've collected. That evidence have been presented to the courts in various pleadings, the multiple confessions to multiple people. We believe that the evidence is strong. By preponderance of the evidence, the proof of guilt is evident. What the fuck has this to do with where he's detained at the moment? The proof of guilt is evident, and the presumption that he committed this heinous act are strong. You lying sack of shit. You know all of what you're saying now is invented, including the strength of their confessions. Mr. McClelland knows about all the confessions from other people that has been denied the defense, that he didn't hand over to the defense. He knows about the first 70 days. I'm sure of it. He knows that the first 70 days of interviews are gone. He knows. He knows about the Odinist theory. He knows it, and he's actively not sharing it with the defense at this point in time. Now we know that at this point in time that Frank's motion is on the way. And he's so mad about it because he's gone to such efforts to not hand stuff over to the defense, to lie, to make other people lie. Blah, blah, blah. So the state doesn't have real concern. I suppose it's the lawyer in me that wants to argue it more than anything. you don't have a lawyer in you, Mr. McLeland. You're a disgrace. But Mr. Rossi brought up 3533.11.1, and they decided to scrap the safekeeping order altogether. I don't see any provisions within that chapter that say if you scrap the safekeeping, the defense then gets to choose what facility it's in. If the safekeeping order is scrapped, it comes back to Carroll County. I don't see anything other provision that says the defense gets to choose what facility it's in. They are making suggestions. Jesus Christ, they are making suggestions to solve this. They are not telling you to choose. They are giving suggestions. This is how you solve this problem. I may have missed something. Yeah, your soul. But I looked through that chapter with some extensive research and didn't find anything. And so if the safekeeping order is scratched, it comes back to the charging county, which is Carroll County. And that's where he's to be housed if the safekeeping order is scrapped. What they are searching for is for an order from the judge to them find a place. And so I think the court, to me, when I read the motion, I think the court hit the nail on the head. That this is about convenience for Mr. Rossi. No. The convenience is for Mr. Allen to have a continuous access to his attorneys. So, of course, it is a hassle to drive 3 hours a day just to have a meeting with your client. Of course, it's inconvenient because they can't pull up a proper defense under those circumstances. He makes a mock quote. We don't want a safekeeping order. The sheriff hadn't met their burden. You should get rid of it. But we really want you to modify it to Cass County, so he's right next door to where I'm at. Mr. McLeland, I can be snark. I can do snark because I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not Mr. Allen's defense attorney. What the fuck just happened? I just got a pop-up that said I'm offline. Folks, say something in chat if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Okay. I still have that pop-up. Okay, okay. Okay, it seems like I'm back, at least in some way, shape, or form. Oh, Jesus Christ. Thank you. You're fine. Thank you. All right. Yeah, as I said, I can go snark because I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not Mr. Allen's attorney. If I were either, I would either have thrown out the case and filed charges against some of the investigators. Or if I had been Mr. Allen's attorney, I can't put myself in that position. I really can't. But for a prosecutor to be going on like this, it's not proper. He makes Brennan look like a wonder of impartiality and ethics. We heard the Cass County Sheriff testify. We heard the DOC warden testify. It doesn't sound like a situation in either facility is going to be much different. You lying sack of shit. It's going to be videotaped 24 hours a day in Cass Cass County. He's not going to have face-to-face visits. He's going to have all the amenities and maybe even less in Cass County than he has at DOC. Just conveniently forgetting about the fact that he is guarded by Oldenish guards in prison. He has felony inmates guarding his door, probably screaming at him. He's not going to have 24-hour medical or mental health facility or people there to look after him. At this point, yes, this is a good argument. But now when we know about Dr. Walla, Mr. Allen would have been better off without that service. Because Dr. Walla, in my opinion, her involvement in this case, that she actively sought out to be Mr. Allen's psychologist, while she was active in different what was it, Discord or Reddit or Facebook groups about this case. Yeah, now we know. Back then, this was a good argument. He wouldn't have 24-hour medical or mental health facility or people there to look after him. But knowing what we know now about Dr. Walla, he would have been better off without that help. He's not going to have those, I guess, conveniences at the same 24 hours a day. The Cass County Sheriff said those are only there, I think, 4 hours a week for mental health and maybe 12 hours a week or 12 hours a day for the medical. And so I don't think the situation is much different from Westville as opposed to Cass County, except for geographic area and convenience for Mr. Rossi. He is segregated in the segregated unit. He's in solitary confinement. You heard the concerns of our sheriff about transport, about housing, about his safety, and so those are the main concerns I hear from the Carroll County Sheriff's Department. Are there other options for transportation? Possibly. I don't know what those are at this point, so I can't comment on those, Judge. So that's the state's standpoint at this point. Thank you, the court. Anything else? Mr. Rossi, just a couple of comments, reactions. First of all, the prosecutor again is sitting here talking about multiple confessions. You're going to hear at some point what he's talking about. This is one of the things where at 1 minute, Rick Allen's saying one thing, and just 2 seconds later, he's saying something else. It's all very generic. This is not some, inquisition where he's finally given up and thrown in a towel and he's just confessing. This is not that. And I've listened to what he's listened to. The second thing is that the idea that somehow the Cass County Jail is not an option. That's just me offering up an alternative. I would think that if any lawyer came in and asked for relief in the form of some prayer, that you would want to know what's the relief. And so I'm just offering up a suitable circumstance to the court that might fit. I've even suggested loosely today that the White County circumstance wasn't that bad. Everything seemed to be fine there for the week he was there. It's accessible. It's not very far. It's actually closer to this courthouse. Anything to make this a little bit easier. And then we get into the issue of convenience for me. Okay, so the idea that Mr. Baldwin or I have to travel great distance and deal with all these layers of security and the changing rules and all these other circumstances, including having our own visits videotape, is somehow okay. I mean, I'm trying to put him in a situation where we can have reasonable contact with him with reasonable notice and represent him like the rules of professional conduct require me to represent him. And so to the extent that is convenient for me, it's convenient for him. And that's what's important, is what needs and what rights does he have. And him being accessible to us without having to go through all these hurdles and having some of the modern amenities like water when we meet with him, and not having him shield up like this when we're trying to talk to him, having a computer in front of us so we can show him the thousands of hours of witness statements and other things. Those aren't amenities. Those are basic human rights, basically. And that's what we're asking for, is just get us in a situation that's functional. We're not asking to put him in the Holiday Inn. And I don't see any reason why we're not there. Nobody's really objecting. And just that we can't get a van back and forth between two counties for Christ's sakes, we almost put a guy. We put a guy on the moon 40 years ago. We can drive the van around from Cass County to Carroll. I don't see a problem with that. It is really frustrating. You can sense that from me. I just want to get on with the case and get him in a better circumstance, and that's what I'm asking you to think about. The court, okay. And in all fairness, Mr. McLeland, I don't hear that the defense is asking to scrap the safekeeping order. The motion is clearly to modify the safekeeping order. You see how she sounds reasonable here? But we know she doesn't give a flying fuck about the defense or the rights of Mr. Allen. We know that. But she is very, very careful on making it sound good on the record. This might even be something that her clerk of court, Jody, is helping with. Because I don't trust Jody at all. The clerk of court. I have zero trust in her. That what we are reading now is what actually was word by word was what was being said. I believe with, well, I would say it's a 50-50 chance that this is a cleaned up version of what actually happened. Mr. Rossi, yeah. The court, okay, I'll take the arguments and the evidence under advisement and review the case law that you have submitted to the court. What else? Mr. Rossi, Judge, did you want to have a... Mr. McLeland, can we approach briefly, Judge? The court, yeah, come on up. Meeting in chambers or the court? Well, come on up here for just a second, because I think... Sidebar conference conducted. The court, what did you want to do with your motion for TRO? Mr. Rossi, well, I'm asking the court to order that it not occur. The court, not to video because it's the videotaping, right? It is, okay. Mr. Rossi, I mean, I have no problem with the camera in the corner. The court, and they stopped doing it as part of the normal, the court, okay. But this is not that. The court, no, it is kind of, but it's, Mr. Rossi, well, not when they're sitting 2 feet away from you, it's not. Mr. McLeland, that's being dramatic. The court, video. Mr. Rossi, you weren't there. Mr. McLeland, I wasn't, but the court, I get it. What else? Mr. McLeland, inaudible. That is inaudible number 12. That's it. This is so stupid. The court, yeah. Mr. McLeland, then today, did you want to make that now, or did the court? Well, I want to wait until they file something, but I do want to pick trial dates today. Okay, Mr. Rossi, inaudible. The court, they're continuing inaudible. So we have 2 more. We are at 14. Well, I'd almost like that on the record. I was hoping to address it. What do you mean, Mr. Rossi? Well, all I want is just an order telling whoever is detaining him that they have to give us his records. The court, give us his medical records, Mr. Rossi, without me going through all the court. All right, and if you put at issue, Mr. Rossi, but I don't want to give it to him. This is strange. The court, but if you put it in issue and you continue to put it in issue, you're going to have to give it to him. Mr. Rossi, if I file a request for a competency eval and argue he's not competent, certainly he's going to get them. I mean, I don't... The court, but you can't have it both ways, Brad. You can't keep saying it and saying, well, if I do this, because what you're doing is you're alleging in several of your motion that he is teetering on the verge of, incompetency. Right, I agree with that, but I don't know because I haven't evaluated any of this. The court, so you haven't seen it, Mr. Rossi? Absolutely. So as soon as you get it then, Mr. Rossi, no, I haven't had a call about, hey, your clients, is doing this or doing that. The court, all right. Well, then I'll grant the motion. I'll grant both of them, but with the understanding that stop talking, Mr. Rossi, I'm teetering on the brink of stop talking about it. I will, if you're not going to proceed with it. If I can get them, what they're talking about here is, why is the prosecution getting all of this information, but it's not handed over to the defense? Now Mr. Rossi said, I need these records. Well, if you get them, you have to give them to the prosecution as well. They already have it because they are referencing them. And I'm quite sure that since it is their client and HIPAA rules apply, Mr. Allen can authorize the handing over of medical records to his defense attorneys, and only to his defense attorneys. That I'm quite sure of it. And when it comes to the inmates making notes, that should definitely be handed over to the defense. It's so corrupt. It's so corrupt. The court, okay, all right. Then we have the ex parte, and that will be done after everybody's out of there, but we do need dates for the trial. Ms. McClellan, do you want to pick an omnibus date as to that? The court, well, today was the omnibus date. Unless anybody is going to stand on formality with an omnibus date, which we've blown completely out of the water. Mr. McClellan, sure. The court, I'm not going to worry about it. Ms. McClellan, no. The court, as long as I get you on the record with client's consent, waiving any issues about omnibus. Mr. Rossi, yeah. The court, I mean, it's a formal filing for motions, and I don't stand on the formality of that. I don't care unless you care. Mr. McClellan, I don't. The court, okay. Mr. McClellan, inaudible. Inaudible number 15. The court, oh yeah, I don't know about that. I'm available whenever, but I left my calendar and stuff in there. Can you go grab that? It's the big, thick calendar you printed. Do you have dates that we can at least do dates? Mr. Baldwin, The court, don't Mr. Rossi, I got my calendar. The court, go ahead. Mr. Rossi, July 1st is fine. We'll start there, I feel like. Mr. Baldwin, I don't know that. Mr. Rossi, I'm ready to put everything else down. The court, okay, and just do it. Sidebar conference concluded. The court, we're just going to go ahead and pick trial dates then, please. All right, so I will, without argument, without a necessity for an additional hearing, you have filed a motion, Mr. Rossi, Mr. Baldwin, for a temporary restraining order on the Department of Corrections with the use of cameras while you are meeting with Mr. Allen. And I think that's fair. I'll grant that. Yeah. Here's the problem, is that they did it in clear violation of Mr. Allen's rights. So that in itself should not only be a warrant, that should be in contempt of court. And then we do need trial dates. Now, let's see. I grant you a motion for the Department of Correction to provide Mr. Allen's medical records without necessity of a hearing. And then we do need trial dates. Jody stepped out. I left my calendar and stuff out there. I know that the defense is going to file a supplemental motion for suppression, and you'll file the notice to the state on the Franks versus Delaware issue. It's coming, folks. The Franks motion is coming. The Franks motion was when I got involved in this case. Because I'm Scandinavian. I can track my family back to before the 13th century. This here is actual Scandinavian Viking, not the diaper Nazis in Indiana. So this is the Franks motion is when I took notice of it, when the Odinist theory showed up. So that will be interesting. Because, well, and then what kind of trial dates are we looking for? Because we get to trial dates. We also chatted up here just a moment ago about the omnibus date. I know it's a statutory deadline for filing of motions. Unless the state's going to holler and scream about the deadline, I don't stand on formalities as it relates to the time limit. I think as a former prosecutor and a former practicing attorney, I think that always kind of hamstrings people. And today was supposed to be our omnibus day. But obviously, you have additional motions that you're going to be filing. As long as Mr. Allen waives any issues with an omnibus date, I will allow motions to be filed. In the previous, back in February, they were supposed to have both the 15th and the 16th as dates for this. All of a sudden, it seems to be just one day. Mr. Baldwin, Mr. Rossi, I think that what we're doing is agreeing to extend the omnibus date practically, right? The court practically. Mr. Baldwin, I just talked to Mr. Allen and explained generally what we're talking about. And he's like, I asked, do you trust what I'm saying, my advice? He said, yes. The court, okay, so there's no issue with the omnibus date being extended for purposes of filing motions and stuff. But before we part, I do want to set trial dates. And then, when we're done with this, I'd like to address the ex parte motion that counsel filed earlier, which again, ladies and gentlemen, you'll have to leave the courtroom. The state will also be leaving the courtroom, and we'll address an ex parte just with counsel and the court excluding the state and participants. Again, she knows how you do ex parte. Everybody is on notice there is going to be an ex parte. And yet, the original safekeeping order was ex parte without Rik Allen, without Rik Allen's attorney at the time. They weren't even notified that the state and Judge Diener had an ex parte meeting, which that's their entire case. Without that, in my opinion, illegal ex parte hearing, safekeeping hearing, Rik would probably be at home. Rik, because without that, he would have been transported back to jail. He would have access to attorneys. He would never have been subjected to Monica Walla. He would never have been subjected to Warden Jellypoo. He would never have been subjected to the Odinist gods. He would never have been subjected to everything that happened to him in prison. He would have been reasonably okay. Because you all know, without those confessions, so-called confessions, the state really didn't have a case. Where's Andrea? I've asked Andrea to show up once we get to the trial part, and we will do some live reading, role-playing stuff. Mo in the deep end will also show up. I will ask others as well, so we can get the participants. You already know I'm going to play the part of Holman, but not as Jerry Holman. I will be acting as Arthur Holman. I will be acting Arthur Holman as his third cousin by inbred marriage. But you don't have to call him Arthur. You can just call him A. Holman. Nik, anything on Zach Anderson? There's sadly nothing new. And this is something that all of y'all who are hoping that this will be fast for Rik Allen. Zachariah Anderson, his notice of appeal is filed. They are still working with the appeal. He has been in prison for over 2 years now. Wrongfully convicted, in my opinion. There is not. I mean, it takes time, folks. Too much time. That is why. And this is something the prosecutors know. As long as they get a conviction, they don't really care what happens in appeals. because they know that would take 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe longer before a wrongfully convicted is out. As long as they get their fucking conviction, they're good. They don't care. $2 holla for the name Jelly Poo. Thank you, Josie Jan. Thank you. Thank you. Dark Lotus, the punishment is the process. Yeah. All right, let's finish this off. Mr. Baldwin, understand, Judge, or Your Honor, the court trial dates. Mr. Baldwin, Judge, I think on the defense side, we're going through it as quickly as we can. We still have at least one hard drive of evidence, if not more, that we have to go through. So it's a laborious process, and we've got lots of people working on it. So I don't want the court to think that we're not working hard. We absolutely are. So it's really hard for me to gauge. And Brad, I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's hard for me to gauge. We would like to get this trial done as soon as possible on one hand. On the other hand, we know, we get this one shot at this, typically. We don't want to go in without knowing everything that we need to know, so I'm open to suggestions. Yes, still, now, the defense is aware of everything regarding the Franks motion and the Odinist theory, but it's not even close to everything else that the prosecution withheld from them. It's not even close. It's so much that the prosecution withheld. At this point in time, the defense aren't even aware. Well, they might be aware that there are no. I think they realized that in August. So after this hearing, a few months later, they learned that 70 days of interviews were gone. I think that was in August of 2023. Mr. McLellan, Judge, just so everybody's on the same page, I told Mr. Rossi this as well. But there's additional discovery coming per some subpoenas that were granted by the court. And so we're going to get that stuff to the defense as soon as possible. Just to point out that we continue to get discovery in, and we're continuing to send it off to the defense. The court, okay. Mr. Rossi, may I? The court, are we looking at this year still? Mr. Rossi, may I ask a question? Court, yes. Mr. Rossi, are there any administrative hurdles that maybe we haven't talked about that are a problem with scheduling, that you come from another county, you got other things going on? The court, as I shared with you, I have at least 20 other pending murder cases, and the docket this is my calendar to the end of the year. So she is butchering 20 other murder cases at this point in time. Mr. Rossi, okay. The court, there are 688 entries on my calendar to the end of the year for trials and pre-trials, mostly trials. However, that being said, I have been granted unlimited senior judge days by Chief Justice Rush, and I have a senior judge available to me pretty much when I ask for her. She can come cover my calendar. So if we're still looking at this year, I have unlimited access to a senior judge to cover my current docket. Mr. Rossi, we would ask for a January date. January, okay. Can you get me to next year? There's no calendar up here for like the year, so I don't have my phone with me, so Jody got me on calendar. All right, I'm assuming 2 weeks for trial. I don't know how long. Mr. Rossi, I would say easy. The court, easy 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Mr. McLellan, yeah, I would say that's probably, Mr. Rossi, we need to plan for 3 or more. The court, 3? Mr. Rossi, I think the longer this gets pushed out, the longer the trial is going to be. The court, well, that's on y'all. What about January 8th through January 26th? Understanding that jury selection will take place in Allen County. At some point, we'll have to talk about specialized questionnaires. I have one of the most sophisticated jury systems in the country, so I can provide you an extensive veneer than questionnaires. But I'm assuming that counsel will wish to have a specialized questionnaire sent to that veneer, and I'm happy to accommodate that. Mr. McLellan, Judge, those dates are available from the state's perspective at this point. That's far enough in the future. I don't have anything on my calendar. We do have a holiday in between that week, I think, but yeah, the trial didn't happen in January. It happened, what was it, October? September, October? Mr. McLellan, sure, I absolutely agree. Judge, just got to bring it to the court's attention. Mr. Rossi, those dates are fine with the defense. The court, all right. So we're scheduled trial for January 8th through the 26th of 2024. We take the 8th, 9th, and 10th, perhaps to select the jury, maybe the 11th, and well, again, up to Fort Wayne, and we'll just kind of, well, play that by ear. I know that we're going to visit again before that date and time clearly. Mr. Rossi, very good. Anything else before we adjourn this record, Mr. Rossi? Mr. Baldwin? No, ma'am. No, Judge, thank you. Mr. McLeland? Mr. McLeland, no, Your Honor. The court, all right. Thank you very much for your advocacy on behalf of the state, on behalf of the defendant. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to move to the ex parte of part of the proceedings, and everybody will have to leave the courtroom. This concludes the proceedings had at safekeeping hearing held June 15, 2023 in this cause. Record of proceedings at ex parte. Appearances, Rossi and Baldwin. Gull and Jody. Proceeding. The court. All right, so we're on the record now. We are outside the presence of the state and there's no spectators in the room. I'm assuming that the individuals that are on the bench behind you, Mr. Rossi, excluding the Department of Correction guards, are your staff. Mr. Rossi, my staff member, and the staff member, and the staff member, and the staff member, and the staff member. Okay, so the balance of the folks in the courtroom, there are two officers from the Department of Corrections. There's an officer, I'm sorry, I don't know, are you DNR? Unknown officer. No, I'm Lieutenant Inaudible. 16. Oh. I'm with the Department of Correction. Oh, you're with the Department of Correction as well, and then Officer Bode. So we'll place the officers under oath. I'm trusting that you already explained to your folks the import of the ex parte hearing. Mr. Rossi, yes. Okay, Mr. Baldwin, you also explained to your folks? Yes. All right, so if you would all please raise your hand, right hands for me. Do you, and then the officer sworn. Thank you, and all of you here in the courtroom, including staff members, do you and each of you understand you may not speak to anyone, including each other, about this hearing or any of the information disclosed in this hearing. Violations of your oath and this order to be silent is punishable as contempt of court, up to a year in jail, and a fine up to $1,000. All understand the import of that? Okay. And everybody's nodding their head in affirmative. All right, so Mr. Rossi, on June 6, you filed a motion for ex parte determination of defendant's motion for appointment of experts. You may proceed. Judge, I'm a little embarrassed to say I don't actually have the motion in front of me, the court, here. I was more bogged down. Well, there were other things that Mr. Rossi, yeah, and I frankly just forgot to print it, but I don't think we really need to see it. I appreciate the court offering that up. Look, this isn't rocket science. We're asking to get somebody on the medical side involved in this case, namely a psychologist that's been referred to me that might be, that might have some experience in the areas that we think are important to Mr. Allen's current psychiatric circumstances. But I think more importantly, there's a mitigation aspect to this case that's important too. You've heard today, not for the first time, but that there have been some incriminating statement made by him, and we're certainly, again, not shying away from that. We have our explanations. The state will have theirs. But knowing that the landscape of the case has changed a bit, I think it's incumbent upon Mr. Baldwin and I to investigate and explore the idea of mitigation as well. And it would be anyway. But that certainly kind of ramps up the intensity of it. And so the primary purpose is that we also have this kind of unique issue where we, in his detention circumstances, he has a psychiatrist that kind of like his personal psychiatrist, I guess, in a way. And I think her name is Dr. Walla, phonetic. I'm sorry, I haven't actually seen that in writing, but having heard her name referred to on a number of occasions, I believe that's it. She apparently is meeting with him and communicates with him about various things. We've tried to extract some of that information from him. We've been semi-successful in learning that's what's going on in that relationship. I haven't asked her. I did try to speak with her only one time, but I felt like getting the medical records was a responsible place to start, and we're making progress there. But the point is that there's been a mental health component to all this because there's been a psychiatrist or psychologist at the DOC involved, and there's apparently a panel that has considered his circumstances or, I don't know, indirectly assessed him. Jesus Christ. Yeah. So if you ever wonder where all the leaks came from, Dr. Walla and the panel. I'm not really sure, and I think it's fair that we have somebody that can sort through a lot of this information and help us understand what it means to him. He also has a lengthy history of depression that's documented, and so, we're aware of that, and we obviously need some help trying to sort through what all of that means to his current circumstances and what it means to him from a mitigation standpoint. And when I say a lengthy history, I'm talking a little loosely, but I believe generally he was diagnosed with depression, I would say 20 years ago or more. But I also am aware of that at one point in his life, that resulted in an intensive inpatient stay. And so it's more than just some doctor down in Burlington, Indiana, signing a script and saying he's depressed. There is some meat on the bones, so to speak. And so, those are the primary reasons why we need some help in terms of sorting through all that. And I just heard from Mr. McLeland just a few minutes ago. Frankly, once we recessed, we were talking about what's coming in terms of information, and in addition to more discovery, which will, by the way, never stop in this case, because they're getting tips daily. So, they keep turning those things over. But in addition to that, he assures me that the volume of mental health records we're going to get from the DOC is going to be pretty great, extensive. I should say that he just told me that a few minutes ago. And so, with all that coming and just generally needing to be able to sort through that more effectively, I started reaching out to the people that I trust, and this Dr. Westcott was recommended to me. I communicated with her about the circumstances, and she indicated she'd be very willing to help us. I think I noted I didn't note in this motion, because I certainly didn't reference her in this motion. The court: no, you didn't, cause, Mr. Rossi, but the court: I was looking at it, trying to figure out what kind of expert are we talking about. Mr. Rossi: yeah, well, I appreciate that. Actually, the way I've pled in these in the past is I file a request for an ex parte hearing, and then, if Your Honor grants the hearing, then I have another motion, which I actually have prepared. I know Sarah prepared it, that has the detailed information. The court: okay. Mr. Rossi: now I'm just doing it orally, essentially. The court: yeah, that's fine. Mr. Rossi: because that's kind of the way the first hearing went. So I think Dr. Westcott told me, I'm pretty certain it was $7,000 was the retainer. I think her hourly rate was, now I'm getting a little loose, $300 to $400. I can send you an email and firm that up, whatever it was. It was what I generally expected, for this circumstance. Another, I don't want to get there. She's in the northern part of Marion County. That's where she practices. And so geographically, it's kind of consistent with what he's dealing with. And I guess maybe not quite what I'm dealing with. I'm a little closer. But the point is that what I'm asking the court to do is just authorize reasonable funds. And in that order, I'm also asking the court to allow her access to him wherever he is, without us having to get court orders to get, into places to see him, wherever he ends up or stays, or whatever the court ruling is. The court: okay. Mr. Rossi: because again, I just don't want to have to deal with all the red tape of trying to get somebody else that's involved other than me or Mr. Baldwin or Max or Matt in there. The court: okay. Mr. Rossi: so that's kind of the back end of the request. The court: is she's a psychologist, a psychiatrist? Mr. Rossi: she's a forensic psych. The court: forensic psychologist? Mr. Rossi: no, neuropsychologist. The court: of forensic neuropsychologist. Oh, we got to the end of volume 2. Let's get to volume 3. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. Mr. Rossi: yeah, I think she's a neuropsychologist. I don't know if forensic is the right word, and I have a CV and everything, and again, feel a little bit unprepared. I just forgot to print it off. I just forgot. And so I was just more focused on this other issue, and I can just simply email it to you. It wouldn't be that difficult. The court, okay. I don't have a problem. I mean, I expected. I mean, we already had the firearms expert. Oh, that motherfucker. Yeah, the firearms expert who, when the bullet found at the crime scene was a cycled one, not a fired one. Then she took Mr. Allen's gun and cycled a cartridge of another brand. It wasn't a match. Then she fired the other one, and then she claimed she found a match. No, I don't remember her name. Let's call her Cunt. Miss Cunt. The moment the cycled cartridge didn't match the other cycled cartridge, that's the end of your testing. And she had a job that was to find a comparison, and she claimed she found it. I'm saying I'm not a firearms expert, but I have eyes. And I made a video a number of months ago where we went through what she claims were matches, and it's clearly not fucking matches even after she fired the cartridge. She was lying under oath. Okay, let's continue here. You got all your investigative staff and that additional administrative expenses that you both have been experiencing. So I've been expecting some type of motion along these lines. So I don't have a problem with that. I'll grant you motion to obviously proceed in ex parte now on the record to retain Dr. Westcott. And if you want to just send me that information, and I don't have a problem as far as I do this in Fort Wayne, sending orders to the DOC to allow this individual to have access to him. It would have to be, at my jail, it has to be by appointment. Mr. Rossi, yeah, sure. The court, so. Mr. Rossi, well, I do, in talking with her, her visits. She might have the need to visit with him, I'll say, in person. You heard me ask Sheriff Schroeder about that, the ability to do that just for example, rather than through the glass. So I might, if the court would permit me to tailor an order, yeah. Because, and of course, you're going to look at it before you sign it, but I may tinker with the wording a little bit, just so there's some convenience aspect to it, but understanding that there are restrictions on everything in jails and prison. And the court, oh yeah, Mr. Rossi, I get that. We just went through all of that. So the court, ad nauseum. Mr. Rossi, I couldn't hear what the court said, but I said ad nauseum when we're through all of that. Yeah, well, the court, I mean, it has to be done, so I don't have a problem with that. Apparently, Judge Gould, you have a problem with that. You want everything to be sped along so you can convict him. You don't say ad nauseum. Jesus. Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, can I have my motion back? You may. Thank you. All right. So you'll just send me something and we'll go from there. Is there anything else that we need to attend to outside of the presence of the state of Indiana? Mr. Baldwin, Judge, I don't know. I think this is, I'm in prepping for the suppression issue. That wasn't, but soon will be. I expended some, our firm advances monies on. We're making posters on to help explain it. That will also be used at trial. And I'm just presuming that that'll be fine. I don't want to get struck by the bill on that, but we are trying to do the things that visually help people understand a complex set of facts, I guess. And it can be pretty expensive, so I didn't know if that's just a bill. I'm not used to billing. I'm not typically a public defender, so I don't really know how to do that. So we're going to advance it, and then I'm just going to send in a bill, and I guess you will scrutinize it and see, what's reasonable. And I do have both. The court says I do have both. You both have submitted bills, Mr. Baldwin, to include your staff time as well as your own personal time. So I've had the opportunity I kind of perused them. I haven't really perused them for purposes of approval. I don't see that there's going to be an issue with that, but yeah, that's an expense that you should be reimbursed for. Folks, they weren't paid for a year. For a year, she refused to sign the reimbursement order. Mr. Rossi, no, ma'am. Mr. Baldwin, no, thank you, Judge. The court, all right, thank you. And thank you to the Department of Correction. We appreciate your time. Mr. Rossi, I agree. Thank you. The court, okay, Jody. And Jody will provide another transcript. This concludes the proceeding had at the ex parte hearing held June 15, 2023 in that cause. The next hearing we're going to talk about is apparently October 19th, 2023. This is after, I believe, the Franks motion. Yeah, but that is for next session. Hey, Lisbon. Yet again behind. Okay, so I just watched Tonsil Twins in Megan. Yay! So here's some breadsticks for that. Thank you so much. Hi, Nick and Mr. Jingles. Hello. Hello. Tomorrow is Friday. Tomorrow is slightly buzzed Friday law show. I will try to get together some of the Delphi folks with some of the Laura Owens folks, and we will just have a really good Friday afternoon / evening with the drink of our choice and having fun, exchanging experiences with the different cases, we are dealing with. So that will be fun. That will be tomorrow, roughly 5 p.m. Eastern time. That will start. I have no idea who will show up yet. Hopefully a bunch of good folks. But folks, yeah, Saturday I will probably do a longer reading of the transcript. Hopefully longer than the 3 hours I did now. Again, I will cut out the different witnesses so that I make it into videos. I don't get many views of those, but that is just to make it easily accessible for you guys if you want to check things out. What did that warden say now again? And what did Nick say about that warden? There will be a video on it. All right, folks. First, thank you to Christine for being a member for 24 months. Thank you so much. Thank you to Sybil, or Little Miss, as I learned. Thank you so much. Thank you to Jersey Jan. And thank you to Lisbeth. Thank you so much. So, folks, thank you. From me and Mr. Jingles, thank you for allowing me to do this. Without you guys, this wouldn't be possible. So keep showing up, hitting the thumbs up, watch the replay, watch the videos, make it, and you don't even, check other people who's covering the Delphi case. Make it into the algorithm, because the more people who watches me and the other people, that will also get maybe the bigger or biggest channels besides Andrew to also start to cover this, because that is something I noticed. If a lot of small channels are getting into the algorithm in a certain subjects, some of the bigger will also get there. All right, folks, thank you again. And I will send you off with the free Rick Allen song. And remember, folks, hug your family. Unless your family's shit, then fuck them and give your love to the people who deserve it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Down in the shadows where the courthouse stands, a gavel cracks a fading hands. Judge Gould, they whisper with a crooked grin, played the game where justice don't win. Free Rick Allen, let him go. Chains on the innocent, don't you know? When the truth's been buried and the lies unfold, the fire in the people burns hot and cold. Prosecutor Mickelin, with his papers tight, wrote the tale that never saw light. Twisted words in a room of stone, left Rick Allen to stand alone. Who